It's good that I'm following my dear brother Maurice here as it relates to diversity, because it's not just about, in my estimation, about racial diversity or diversity of ethnicities, but it's also about diversity ideas. And so what I want to talk about this morning is this notion of is it innovation or the innovators? And so I'd like to kind of toss out something that I've been ruminating over for some time now and really see how it lands. And let's start with this word innovation, as defined as a new idea, a device, a method, or the act or process of bringing these things into being. And yet, how is it that this term has been hijacked to refer to this hyper-focus on the bright, shiny object of high tech and high growth? It seems that if we're to have innovation, that it must fit this mold. An example, about a year and a half ago, I was at the White House with other recipients of the SBA's first Accelerator Fund Award. And the entire morning was spent on the importance of innovation. And again, it was from this perspective or within this context of science and technology. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I grew up with science and tech. My father and his brothers were aviators and engineers, and my grandmother was a chemist. And I had a little lab in the basement. I was a geek. We used to call them A kids back then, but I was a cool A kid, right? So I get the importance of these disciplines. I really do. But one of the things that I do see is that we can also get derailed if we narrowly think about innovation and how it can be the fuel of workforce development and entrepreneurship. As you know, one of the things that we're grappling with in Charlotte, among others, is, and to a great degree, I think this is emblematic of what we see as a problem around the country, and it's not bathrooms. It's the socioeconomic mobility gap that has us ranked last amongst the top 50 markets in the country. A gap, in my estimation, that has been exacerbated by this notion that innovation trickles down from science, technology, engineering, and math to the exclusion of anything else. So what if we were to craft something unique or original? Must it be subjected to or usurped by STEM? Now, I'm really one who is very, very happy to see that arts is now in the conversation. But on the face of it, closing the gap would seemingly necessitate that we put people to work at a living wage in those areas of the city where the gap seems the widest. However, a wage higher than the current minimum isn't likely in the service economy that we've shifted to. So can we simply retrain folks in the areas, that have them do coding or are involved in advanced manufacturing or data management or the like, and meet the demands of the jobs that are going unfilled that we hear so much about? Now, I don't really know. I kind of doubt that, to be honest with you. And what if the jobs going unfilled require a bachelor's degree or a master's degree? Where does that leave folks? On the outside, looking in, again, with their faces pressed up against the glass, watching the parade go by and an ever-widening gap. As the economist Paul Krugman points out, for every Bill Gates and Mark Andreessen, there are thousands who find that technology has made it harder, not easier, to make a living. And this isn't just a problem that is endemic to Charlotte. It's not an urban phenomenon. It's in all parts of the state as well, I mean, including right here in Wilson. So I contend that one way of addressing this gap is that we change our perceptions about innovation. So rather than being fixated on the cap of the pyramid, right? Again, as Krugman reminds us, the human capital using technology of the information revolution favors the exceptional and the extremely lucky at the expense of the merely intelligent, or the lucky few, I should say, at the expense of the merely intelligent and hardworking many. So why not consider the base of the pyramid, right? Trusting in a broader pool of the population from which to cultivate and draw innovators. Let's consider the role of the innovators first, especially the unusual suspects, rather than the methods of innovation. Well, who are they? What can they mean for the development of new ideas, devices, and methods? You see, when we start with the innovators in mind, and then are surprised and delighted by when and where innovation occurs, and if we allow for it to be more broadly distributed or developed horizontally, we eliminate the sort of hierarchical and vertical approach that says that the development of ideas and the solutions to problems is the only way to go. Now, this innovation won't necessarily take the form of a new IP or, a scalable business model, but there are personal and practical real-life solutions that a new app just can't address, right? For which a technologically driven solution can't be found. Now, this sort of discovery starts with how we think of who an innovator is, and whether or not they need to be armed with credentials that presupposes that it can't be found amongst the people, the folks in the gap. So if we begin to think differently about them, they're more likely to be empowered to think differently about themselves and the capacity that they have to affect change. I believe that this is where the sparks of innovation, true innovation, can be found. Now, at City Startup Labs, we're very intentional about working with a group of unusual suspects. That's Black male millennials. And this population's representation in the sciences and technology, is nowhere near their percentage of the population. But to discount their value does a disservice to us, not just them, all right? Because we're not then taking advantage of their ingenuity, their brain power, and dare I say, their innovation. So we work to improve their value as an output, an output of an investment in three classes of assets. We start off with human capital, and that includes entrepreneurial education and training, and looking at personal financial management and improved employability, how to be a better employee, what do you come with, how are you a better problem solver, right? Better leader at your company. There's also social capital. It's about building a network and a community that includes advocates and evangelists and customers and clients and business advisors and mentors and the like. And being part of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. You know, what the heck is that? You know, many of these guys don't know what that means, you know, when they first start, but then they soon find out. And then lastly, it's economic capital. It's not just about, you know, your own personal and familial wealth, but, you know, now we got folks thinking about legacy and maybe even intergenerational wealth, right? And what their impact on the community can be. You see, it's this notion that we have about what innovation is and where it resides that has us automatically putting on blinders, blocking out the possibility that the people, everyday people, like Sly Stone used to say, armed with a new way of thinking about and looking at the world that changes everything. It changes everything. So when we decide to place as much value in investing in the innovators as we do in innovations, I think we'll go a long way towards bridging this gap. So again, the question is it the innovation or the innovators? I thank you.